to be going over partial quotient. So partial quotient is exactly like it sounds. It's part of the quotient. We're finding parts of our quotient, and then we're going to be adding them all together to find our final quotient. The problem that we are going to solve first is 593 divided by 4. So when you're doing partial quotient, you're going to be kind of setting it up in a long division way. But I like to make a long line over here because we're going to be working out problems to the right, working out our multiplication. Okay? Our divisor goes to the left, and our dividend goes underneath right here, 593. Okay, we always start with our largest place value, and that's going to be the hundredths place. I have 5 hundredths, so I need to think 4 times how many hundredths will get me as close to 5 hundredths as I can get. Okay, well 4 times 1 would be 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Well, I don't need 8 hundredths, but I can subtract 4 hundredths. So I'll say 4 times 1 is 4 hundredths. And to rewrite this, I would say 4 times 100 equals 4 hundredths. What I'm going to use from this is my 400 and my 100. Okay, if I had groups over here, my 4 groups, that would mean that I have 100 in each group to make up my 400. Because there's going to be 100 in each group, the number that I multiply by my divisor is the number that's part of my quotient. This is my first partial quotient, 100. This 400 here is what I am going to subtract. When I subtract, I get 193. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the tens. I can go ahead and go for my tens place over. This is going to be the number of tens I have. I have 19 tens. Now, I've got 100 here. But instead of saying I have 109 tens, I can say I know that I have 10 tens in 100, and I have 9 tens here. So 10 tens plus my 9 tens gives me 19 tens. Okay, so 19 tens. So I need to think 4 times how many tens will get me as close to 19 tens as I can get without going over. So I have to think about my multiples of 4. I know 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 5 is 20. But 20 is too much. That's more than 19. But I can go with 16. Okay? So 4 times 4 tens would give me 16 tens. If I rewrote this, I would say 4 times 40, my 4 tens, equals 160, my 16 tens. Okay? This 160 is what I'm subtracting, and 40 is what goes in each of my 4 groups to give me my 160. Okay? So my 40 is part of my quotient, and I'm subtracting 160. Now I have 33. So now I'm dealing with ones. So I go from the ones place over and see that I have 33 ones. So I have to think 4 times how many ones would get me as close to 33 as I can get. So you have to really think about your multiples of 4. Multiplication is so important throughout the rest of your mathematical career. So I can think 4 times, well, 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6, well, that's going to give me 24. 4 times 7 will give me 28. 4 times 8 gives me 32. Well, 32 is extremely close. I know that if I go to my next multiple, it's going to be 4 more than this number, so that's going to be too much. So I could go ahead and go, if I was unsure, 4 times 9 and get 36. But that's going to be too much. I can't use that. But 32, that's probably as close as I can get. So 4 times 8 will give me 32. So the 32 is what I'm subtracting, and 8 is what goes in each of these groups. So 8 is part of my quotient. Okay? And 32 is what I subtract. And I have 1 left over. This 1 is smaller than my divisor. Because what I have left over down here is smaller than my divisor, I know that I am finished. I can subtract no more. Okay, my smallest multiple of 4 is 4, and I cannot subtract 4. So I have something called a remainder. My last step is to add them up. 100 plus 40 plus 8 would give me 148 as my quotient with a remainder of 1. Okay, this is my final answer. 148, remainder 1. Now, if I was to check this problem, I would be going ahead and writing out, let me go ahead and write out my problem. It was 593 divided by 4. And my answer was 148, remainder 1. In order to check my problem, I have to identify all of the parts of my problem. This first number right here is called my dividend. Okay? The dividend is the number that you are splitting into equal parts. My next number is called my divisor. The divisor is the number that you're dividing by, the number of parts that you're splitting your dividend into, the number of groups. I always like to say, if this was money, and I had $593, and it was being split among 4 people, we definitely want it split evenly. So that's what we're trying to do with division, is make equal groups. Okay? My number right here, the 148, is called my quotient. The quotient is the amount that's in each of the equal groups. So it's how much each of those 4 people would get if everybody got the same amount. And lastly, I have my leftover, my remainder. The remainder is what remains after everything has been split into equal groups. So if this is money, then we'd have $1 left over, and I guess we'd each get a quarter. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and identify how I'm going to be checking this problem. So when you check a problem, you, for division, will have to multiply, because division is the opposite of, division is the opposite of multiplication. Multiplication is the opposite of division. So I'm going to be multiplying my answer, the quotient, times the divisor. Okay? And then you have to add on the remainder if you have one. We are just putting the pieces back together. So we just divided them up, and now we're putting all of them back together. If you answered your problem correctly, you will get the dividend. If you do not get your dividend at the end, that means you need to go back and recheck your problem because you messed up somewhere. Okay, so my quotient was 148, and I'm multiplying that by my divisor, which was 4. I'm going to be using the partial products method to multiply. 4 times 8 will give me 32. 4 times 40 gives me 160. And 4 times 100 gives me 400. I'm going to add those up, and I get 592. And I had a remainder of 1, so I'm going to add on my remainder of 1 to get 593. Did I get my dividend in the end? I did. I got my dividend. So I know that I got this problem correct. And I can go on to the next. Okay, the last problem I want to go over with you goes into the thousands place. So our problem is going to be 2,574 divided by 5. We're going to be setting it up just like we did the last problem, almost like long division. Our 5, our divisor, goes over to the side, and our dividend goes underneath right here. Okay, we're going to start with our largest place value, which is the thousands place. So I have to think 5 times how many thousands could I subtract? Well, just by looking at it, I can think 5 times 1,000. Well, that's going to be 5,000. I cannot subtract 5,000. I can't subtract any thousands, and that's okay. I don't have to. So now I'm just going to move right along to my hundreds. I'm going to go to the hundreds place right here, and everything to the left of it. This is how many hundreds I have. I have 25 hundreds. So I have to think 5 times how many hundreds would get me as close to 25 hundreds as I can get. Well, 5 times 5 is 25. And if I was going to make it hundreds, I would say 5 times 500 would give me 25 hundredths, or 2,500. So this 2,500 is what I'm going to be subtracting. And 500 is what is going in each group. So that is part of my quotient. Because if I added 500 5 times, I would get 2,500. When I subtract, I get 74. Okay, so now I'm going to look and see how many tens I have. Because I already looked at my thousands, my hundreds, and now I'm looking at my tens here. Okay, I've got 7 tens, so I need to think 5 times how many tens would get me as close to 7 tens as I can get. Well, 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 times 2 is 10. I don't need 10 tens. I can use 5 tens though. So 5 times 1 10 would give me 5 tens, or 50. This 50 is what I will be subtracting. And this 10 right here is what is going to be part of my quotient. Okay, I subtract and I get 24. Okay, now I'm looking at my ones. When I'm looking at the ones, I'm going to go from the ones place over to the left. And I've got 24 ones. So I need to think 5 times how many ones will get me as close to 24 as I can get. Well, 5 times 4 ones would give me 20. And 5 times 5 ones would give me 25. 25 is too large, I cannot subtract it. But 20 I can do, and that would put 4 in each group, so 4 is part of my quotient. So I subtract my 20, and I have 4. Now my divisor is a 5. 4 is smaller than 5, so I know that I am finished, and that's going to be my remainder. I add them up, 500 plus 10 plus 4 to get 514, and I have a remainder of 4. If I was to check this problem, I would be multiplying my quotient, 514, times my divisor of 5. I'm going to do partial products for this. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 10 is 50. And 5 times 500 would give me 2,500. You can find these exact problems over here to the right. We've already worked out these partial products. I'm going to add them up. Get 0, 7, 5, 2,570. And I cannot forget to add on my remainder. That will give me 2,574. If I have my dividend, then I know that I got this correct. 2,574 is my dividend, so I did answer this correctly. I hope that this was helpful for you, and thank you for watching. Have a great day.